Hello, welcome to Thrash Life, episode 11. Today is February 11th, 2 1s. We're going to be talking about metal legend Jonny Z passing away, Exodus action figure Kittie coming back, as well as Joe Rogan's Technicolor adventure on Spotify or some shit like that. In an interview with Lucas Dicus. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's correct.
All right. But first, let's talk about how your day's been going. How's it going, man?
Oh, man. Just glad to be here in beautiful Orion Studios.
Oh, yeah,
sunny Baltimore, Maryland.
yeah.
I think this is one of the only times we've been in here when it's been sunny. Just nice natural light going on in here.
Oh, it is incredibly sunny today. A beautiful 32 degrees,
Yeah.
just warm enough. Today is National Peppermint Patty Day, if you want to feel ice cold like us. National Don't Cry Over Spilled Milk Day, which...
I would spill all the milk and not cry about it if I
could. National Get Out Your Guitar Day. If you're listening and you're a musician, like many of us are, get out your guitar. Pro Sports Wives Day. I guess the wives of pro sports players collaborated to get a day.
No, it's just like soccer's wife, football's wife.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
It's just Pro Sports Wives Day.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of any prominent wives other than Tom Brady's wife, which I guess she's not that prominent since I can't even remember her damn name, but she's a model of some sort.
I remember there was a famous Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition that had like, I don't know, pro sports wives or something. But if you want the opposite side of that coin, it is also Satisfied Staying Single Day. If you're satisfied being single. And if you're not into dating, it's National Make a Friend Day as well. Wear a white shirt when you do, because it's National White Shirt Day. And get it from a thrift store because it's National Secondhand Wardrobe Week this week.
Oh, it's a whole week.
Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week is also this week.
Okay. It's less pleasant.
International Networking Week, if you have medical concerns or not, I guess. Feeding Tube Awareness Week, if you're unaware.
Yeah,
feeding tubes feed you if you cannot feed yourself.
You were on a feeding tube for a while, right?
No, I was actually on a PICC line, which is different.
Line. Okay.
My digestion shut down, so a feeding tube would not have helped.
I see.
So I needed to feed the nutrients straight into my bloodstream.
Oh, okay.
Fun stuff. It is also school counseling week, so if you're a school counselor and you're listening to this, what up? Happy school counseling week.
Today's your week.
Pride in Food Service Week. I used to work in food service myself.
Yeah, I have too.
I'm respectful to people who make my food.
Yeah,
every
absolutely.
time. So I think you should
be
paid
extra
more.
proud.
Yeah,
be extra proud right now. But yeah, money trumps pride any day.
Yes. Boy Scouts Anniversary Week. I don't know why they get a whole week, and I think they're just the Scouts now.
Yeah, I was about to say they're just Scouts.
And if you want to...
Wait, what is this? Burn Awareness Week?
It's Burn Awareness Week as well. If you get burned by your boy, or putting your hand on the stove or something like that, you can get burned. Don't do it.
Yeah.
So, we talked a little bit before, very briefly, about the Sidebar being a venue that is possibly going to be changing hands as the group Feed the Scene, a Baltimore nonprofit, is trying to raise money on GoFundMe for taking over the business and the lease,
I
assets,
think
whatnot.
I think actually they're only purchasing a portion of it, so I think they're like buying in as partners.
Okay. So they are at $24,000 out of their $80,000 goal. Just figured we'd mention that if you were interested in saving the sidebar, which is what it is billed as. That GoFundMe is still ongoing, but a new GoFundMe has also appeared for the Skid Row Garage. This was a not Baltimore, god damn
York,
it.
yeah,
York, Pennsylvania, so South Central Pennsylvania venue. This was a garage, a real garage that existed for 10 years, had shows, metal, punk, all sorts of stuff. Really brought in young kids, old kids, all sorts of people.
Yeah, I saw
And
2 bands from overseas in that garage. So
yeah, a lot of good
a
times
lot
had
of
in this
people found
garage.
their way there.
Yeah. They got shut down by the city of York for not having proper permitting and being an unsafe area
Yeah, I believe they were condemned.
after a burn incident happened, burn
So be
awareness week.
aware. Yeah, you could get burned.
Um, yeah, they were condemned overnight and then uncondemned a day later or something
Yeah.
like that. And long story short, they couldn't have shows there. So now MC did a previous round of uh,
Fundraising.
yeah,
Yeah,
crowdsourcing.
crowdsourcing, fundraising.
Um, they got some money. They put a down payment on a building in York. They found all sorts of legal advice, insurance, permitting, knowledge, zoning, realtor fees, everything else. They got a down payment on a building. It is a real structure in New York City that will have live music. Right now, it's just a shell of a building. It has hookups for gas and electric and stuff, but needs walls, will need services to continue doing stuff. They have
I think that's going to be another 20,000 is what they're trying to raise there. Currently sitting at $3,518.
right on. It's difficult to have all these crowdsourcing initiatives at the same time, obviously. So if you can, you're interested, you want to support something like this, I imagine in some way your donation will be memorialized in this place. Maybe you can tag your name up on the wall or slap a sticker in there.
Yeah.
Carve a heart into a tree outside. Whatever the kids do these days. Skid Row also has some merch. I got a T-shirt right here that also goes towards the trying to
Expenses
get this stuff
here.
going.
Yeah.
They're doing it in collaboration with the microbrewery, so they will have a Skid Row brand beer there. Although, from what I understand, they might not necessarily have liquor and stuff like that because they won't have a proper liquor license. And the 21 and up crowd who are drinking are going to be on a separate sort of area cordoned off from the other people. The all ages.
At least my drinks won't get knocked out of my hand anymore.
Yeah, nobody's gonna karate kick your drink right out of your hand. They're going to have an initiative where they partner with regional chefs or people who want to try out like businesses, like a food business, and let them set up for like 3 months at a time and see if their food ID
pop up deal there.
Yeah. So they have a rotating menu of food options, I guess, that they're gonna go through. It seems pretty cool. I'll be interested to see. MC always booked pretty good shows in the past.
Yeah, he's always been more than fair to deal with as a band as well. So it's gonna be a good spot for a lot of people.
Yeah. So we'll try to have links to that in the description in the in the bottom of the thing, or if you're on a podcast platform in the show notes. Very unfortunate news to report. Jonny Z has passed away. Now, if you don't know who Jonny Z is, do you know who Jonny Z is?
Megaforce Records.
Yeah. He's a force. He was a force. He signed Metallica and Anthrax.
Right.
Anthrax has a documentary up about their 40th anniversary. It features some recent footage of Jonny Z and their perspective on the whole scene evolving and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's sad news.
Yeah, he was 69. Which
Nice.
Now, speaking of other deceased thrashers, Paul Baloff, the old singer of Exodus, and Cliff Burton, the deceased bassist from Metallica, are set to get action figures or already have action figures. Available for $18.
Yeah. Seems a little steep. I've purchased one of these action figures. I have a Jerry Only from Misfits, and it's a lot smaller than I thought it would be for the price when I got it. It's like the size of like a standard G.I. Joe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, those were small.
Yeah.
This is made by the company Super 7. They're on super7.com. Yeah, Cliff Burton's figure becomes available yesterday. Paul Baloff passed away 20 years ago, and that's why they're doing this.
Is that yesterday?
February 10th.
Okay.
HitPiece. You heard about this?
You know, a little bit. I don't get it. I don't understand.
Overnight, like I'm out on vacation, and overnight my feed is just blown up with everybody's music getting stolen. Well, supposedly that's what it looks like to me.
Right.
Everybody had noticed that their stuff that they uploaded to Bandcamp was being turned into an NFT, and they were like, many people were upset, being like, I never made money off my music, and if somebody makes money off of this,
for the dummies out there, not me, what is an NFT?
It's a non-fungible token. You can't funge it.
Okay.
It's a service in which you can encrypt some information and pseudo immortalize it. I mean, it's only immortalized as long as the services that keep these things keep existing. So it's kind of like remember the old buy a star? You can buy a star and name it. It's kind of like that. Like they put your name in a registry and you get like a digital receipt of ownership.
Okay.
So people are buying these, speculating on them, because it seems like a thing that could make them money. Now,
why is this such a big deal?
People want to, conflate this with an aggressive form of bait and switch tactics, where you kind of like sell this to somebody with the promise that it might hold some value or increase in value, but it probably won't, unless it's the same thing as art in general. Like it's only worth what people are willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
And people are speculating on it because there's a lot of people who have extra money to speculate on things. Yeah. The other problem is that like one NFT transaction, now the numbers like range on this, but it can use as much electricity as like anywhere from like 2 to 8 months of a household's electricity bill to get these, because it's like a highly encrypted, like very large set of like data that's being transmitted and needs to be stored constantly. Jesus. So it's like people consider it to be pretty destructive to the environment as well.
Interesting. That's something else. there.
So people dislike the idea of NFTs.
Yeah, boo.
Some people think that it is a interesting frontier that could be hooked up to different things, and other people like that it is deregulated and it's like the wild west of digital ownership and stuff like that, where you're getting money for weird things that don't necessarily exist, and you're kind of evading the tax system as a result because they're crypto transactions. And anyway.
So is this like Matt's Flugel coin?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
So overnight, this company called HitPiece generated some sort of script which automatically mined like album art from many services like Bandcamp and Spotify, and generated NFTs based on them and started selling them. Now, when people found out, like, the site was down in like 3 days.
Okay.
But it was very weird that it happened, and it was very aggressive and very quick. And many people were quick to point out that, like, they didn't do it without the they didn't do it with the permission of anybody. This is like the equivalent of like setting up a show and then being like, oh, this band is on this show, and then contacting them and being like, you know, you want some money off of this, or you want to actually play it?
Yeah.
They are getting sued, I believe, by the RIAA, the Recording Industry Association of America. And yeah, because they were.
I hope they have fun being in court for that.
Yeah. It seemed pretty crazy that they did this. Also, it's worth like saying that like NFTs don't really have value currently, and their value is only perceived upon their usefulness in the future, and they're being quickly made, like crypto is being made illegal in various places and stuff. So always consult with an investing professional when buying crypto. And what that means is don't. You probably should. You probably shouldn't. They posted a thing on Twitter that was like, clearly we have struck a nerve and are very eager to create the ideal experience for music fans. To be clear, artists get paid when digital goods are sold on HitPiece. Like all beta products, we are continuing to listen to all user feedback and are committed to evolving the product to fit the needs of artists, labels, and fans alike. Which is like
a fancy oops.
Yeah. Now, Wolfgang Van Halen, the son of Eddie Van Halen, went ahead and was like, ha 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 ha, fuck you on Twitter. And then he screenshotted that, posted a little thing, and was like, you can also mint this interaction, auction it, and then shove it up your ass. You have my full permission. Which, you know, because you can mint that screenshot into an NFT.
Oh, yeah. And then, but it doesn't exist in the physical world.
Yeah.
But we're somehow shove it up this company's ass.
Well, you have his permission to do it, okay?
Right. Yeah.
You know, speaking of putting together shows without asking people if they're actually on it, and then kind of doing things afterwards, we got Kittie admitting that they might play some more shows. You like that band, Kittie?
Never really did get into them too much. No.
They had some pretty good stuff in the 2000s. Oracle, pretty sweet thing. Morgan Lander and Mercedes Lander, as well as guitarist Tara McLeod and Ivy Vujic, will be playing maybe some more shows.
Looks like possibly 2 more, I think they said.
Yeah, 2 more, and then they're hinting at playing more one-off stuff, which I guess means like if you pay us, we'll come out of retirement.
Like, book us for your summer festivals. We'll take the payday.
Yeah. I'd be excited in seeing Kittie. You know, we talked two episodes ago about our advice that we were going to start giving on podcasts and our album that we were going to be releasing about all these life hacks that may or may not actually
I'd just
out.
like to clarify that was a joke.
Yeah, that was a joke because apparently
it turns out that actually violates the rules of Spotify what we did there.
Yeah. So apparently Spotify has been removing episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience very quietly in the background, up to 113 episodes as of this thing. Most notably, it was not the controversial episode with Dr. Robert Malone, who claimed that people only believe COVID-19 vaccines are effective due to mass formation psychosis. That episode is still available, which has led to Spotify getting fucked. While CEO Daniel Ek, I believe is his name, has been like, we're staying the course on this Joe Rogan thing. We were doing the right thing. They are getting pounded with the stock price going down.
Yeah, that's temporary though. Just because it's a thing right now, it'll go right back up.
A consumer poll from Forrester Research has found that 19% of the customers have since canceled their subscriptions or plan to in the future. And 54% of responders said they had no intention of canceling their plans. Another 18% said they would consider canceling if more music was removed from the platform, which means it does all come down to the music.
Yeah.
That's always been the thing. Like Spotify had a lot less music in the past, and when it got more music, kind of made me want to pay for it. And that's sort of like the crux, right? Like if it has all the stuff, then you pay for it. If it doesn't have all the stuff, that's how it works.
Yeah, if they have the best service, then you're gonna go with it.
We have way more artists leaving over the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. Neil Young started the whole thing publicly, but also Joni Mitchell, Nils Lofgren, who is Bruce Springsteen's guitarist, Brene Brown, who has Spotify exclusive podcasts, India Ari, who has songs and podcasts, Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Young stayed.
No, it's the same Young, Neil Young.
Oh, right.
yeah. The whole Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young is out. Roxanne Gay, who has a podcast, and Mary Trump, who has a podcast. Several artists are rumored to be considering leaving, like the Foo Fighters. We have to mention our homeboys in the Foo Fighters.
At least once a week.
Yes. The Foo Fighters have not confirmed. They said they're not going to leave in 2022. No. And I mean, some metal artists who aren't on bigger labels or whatever have pulled their work and begun to migrate to what I've heard is Tidal. Yeah. Although out of all the payments, like payment is also like a big part of this, and that like Spotify doesn't really pay artists very much for plays. YouTube Music appears to pay the most for the plays.
I looked into Tidal a little bit just because I feel like people are framing this like it's some like mom and pop shop like operation that just sprung up that's gonna like stick it to the man here. So I think it's important to know that Tidal is owned by the same company that owns Square and Cash App, and nice. One of the two co-founders of Tidal is one of the co-founders and former CEO of Twitter. So these are like giant corporate megalords.
Yeah.
They're not swooping in to save the world here.
Yeah. Just another faction
And
of tech bros.
when it comes to giving good information, they had the exclusive release of Kanye West and Beyonce's albums back in 2017, artificially inflated their numbers and essentially defrauded all of their investors to the point where it was revealed that every user would have had to listen to each album 8 times a day for the first month that they were released to achieve those numbers.
I don't think I've ever listened to an album 8 times in a day.
No, I don't either.
If you have, make sure to leave a comment on our YouTube video as to what album you've listened to 8 times in a day. 8 times in a
day, yeah. And so, they're not great. Neither is Apple Music. I don't care where people listen to their music. We're all going to listen to music. It is probably better to see these things splinter to where everything's not just a one-stop shop and you can get certain things in different places. But that's just my take on the state of streaming music these days.
Yeah, comedian Jon Stewart came out kind of on Spotify side, as well as potential pedophile Ted Nugent, and that's kind of a joke, by the way. And
you said potential. It's fine.
Certified jabroni David
certified jabroni
David Draymond from Disturbed also sided with Spotify.
Well, Jon Stewart had the same problem as Joe Rogan, where people took his show seriously, and he was getting some lashback back in his day, and he was like, so there's some famous quote where he's like, the show that comes on before me is puppets making prank phone calls, right? Or something like that.
Crank Yankers. Yeah, man. Oh, I love that show. Yeah. Fellow Marylander, YouTuber, Sungazer bassist Adam Neely pointed out that ideas in reality are often 2 different things for smaller artists, smaller or very much smaller like us. He said, as much as I'd like to remove my music from Spotify, I really can't. Booking live shows for Sungazer is based on how many Spotify listeners we have in a given market. At our level, Spotify is the industry de facto source for those analytics. It would be easy to say, oh, but you're a YouTuber with X subscribers. That's not how live music works. Buyers are market-driven data, and the only show in town is Spotify, not YouTube, not Apple Music, not Tidal. Data is a confounding factor. People also vastly overestimate what it means to be a YouTuber with X subscribers. I talk to people about music while they're pooping, and that doesn't mean that they'll want to buy tickets to see my electronic fusion band when we come through St. Louis. Anyway, things that can actually tip the scale: cancel your Spotify premium, sign up for Apple Music or Tidal. If you work at Apple Music or Tidal, start developing and integrating more data tools for mid-level artists for touring. Which,
it's good
advice.
Good advice. Good suggestion. That's one of the things though where other artists will be hurt by what's going on with Joe Rogan, because so he has $100 million contract with Spotify, and they sell advertising spots on his show for $1 million. So to make their money back, it's actually going to be a good investment somehow.
Yeah.
And the other thing they do though is that you can't just buy advertising for Joe Rogan. You have to buy like a block so that there's other people that are benefiting from the advertising that's being brought in. And I'm pretty sure that ultimately Joe Rogan's not going to be on Spotify anymore. And some people will lose out a little bit on their advertising, but he did just get in trouble for some racial slurs. I don't know if you've got that in here anywhere, but I think he's pretty much going to be done one way or another.
India Arie, I think, was one of the people who put out a documentation of him saying the N-word multiple times, and he, probably not the type of person who should be saying that. Maybe definitely not the type of person who should be saying that. But you ever listen to Joe Rogan?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I used
But
to listen to him
generally,
back in
it's
the day.
the video feed, not on Spotify. I guess it's
Yeah, the clips and stuff that he
yeah,
does. Yeah, because it's such a long podcast. It's like
yeah,
3 hours long
yeah.
sometimes. It used to be.
Doesn't he release every day?
Yeah, I think
So he's
so.
like Howard Stern, basically.
Yeah. He used to be on the Man Show. He was like the second
Yeah,
iteration of the Man Show, and then
yeah.
like he was on Fear Factor. Um,
And UFC.
yeah, UFC
Yeah.
commentator.
He also played a conspiracy theorist on some television show that was like his first role.
Huh.
I can't remember what the show was called, but
He used to be like interesting when he had he had like Neil deGrasse Tyson on, and they're talking about space stuff.
yeah,
Like those episodes are pretty cool. Hearing those perspectives on stuff that you don't think about. But then like there's also like the memes, like when he got Elon Musk to smoke
yeah,
that blunt.
yeah. I love that picture.
Yeah, and it's such a mixed bag with him. He did come out and like try to like apologize on Instagram with like a
Yeah,
video, but then like immediately posted some like debunked news thing like right afterwards,
yeah.
like an hour later, and kind of stepped on his own foot with his apology or
Mm.
whatever. Um, it's
I think it's entertaining, but that's what it is. It's entertainment, like to a degree. Like anybody that is getting information from Joe Rogan is either like hopelessly stupid or came there looking for that exact information to be confirmed for them.
yeah. I don't know why he. I mean, I guess maybe it's the numbers where he saw the sort of Alex Jones like sort of, we can go in this
Yeah.
direction and like get a lot more money out of it.
Yeah, it's weird too though because he'll have Alex Jones on every now and again and you can tell he knows what a liability it is. That he's like
Yeah,
knows better,
a
you
lot
would
of these
think.
platforms are driven by like hate clicks, and people like
Oh
or like,
yeah,
well,
for
I mean,
sure.
like what I call hate clicks, like you don't like something, but you're watching it and like getting angry. Like
Yeah,
at this
yeah.
point, like people are like watching Joe Rogan to be like, "Oh, I'm so mad that you have
Yeah.
this guy on." And it's just like, just don't watch,
Just
and then he
turn it
wouldn't
off.
have
Yeah.
the ability to get the guy on.
Yeah.
So like I said, I haven't listened to Joe Rogan in a while. He hasn't had a lot of content on that's my sort of thing.
Right.
Um, my favorite podcasts are things that are a little bit more uh, educational, I guess.
Right, right.
But we wish Joe Rogan all the best, and for those wondering, the our album with all the controversial stuff is going to be canceled.
It's been
Sorry.
canceled, yeah.
Well,
We got a letter. We can't put that album out.
yeah. Turns out you're not allowed to just say whatever you want on Spotify. We don't have that many episodes.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a specific rule about ingesting chemicals as a form of cleansing.
Oof.
Not allowed to say that on Spotify.
Oh,
So
man.
don't do it.
Yeah, yeah. We never said it.
No.
Never happened. um, let's go ahead and get straight into this interview with Lucas, who has probably a lot more interesting things to say than a bunch of chuckleheads like us.
Yeah, chuckleheads.
So, thanks for catching up on the news with us.
Yeah.
Let's move along. If you could, introduce yourself and tell us your pronouns.
Sure. My name is Lucas Dicus, and my pronouns are he, him.
Cool. How would you describe the music that you play?
These days, the music that I play is primarily rock, which, I mean, that's kind of such a big realm of what it could possibly be. And there's a lot of other stuff I'm doing too, where I'm not actively playing the music on instruments, but making it on the computer. But the main band I'm active in right now, we're doing rock that has a lot of retro 70s influence, prog influence. We're not really a metal band, but we definitely draw some influence from some heavier music as well. I've kind of said to people before, like, you don't get to call yourself a prog rock band. You have to earn the title. But I don't know. If I'm feeling pretentious enough, I might say we're prog rock.
Oh, okay. What kind of places do you usually play this music in?
These days, we're playing in the recording studio and in the basement practicing. Okay. But
right on.
we've played a few places. One of the more interesting ones was a pizza shop.
Awesome. Did they credit you some pizza?
They did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, before you started playing instruments, what was your first musical revelation that brought music into your life as a real thing?
That's a tough one because like music was kind of part of my household growing up, like from day one. And my mom played piano. Both my parents would sing at home. They'd sing to me. So like music was definitely around me constantly. My dad had a big record collection, so I'd hear a lot of that. One of the earliest things I remember with music and where I kind of like seized onto a song, I had to be like 3 or 4 years old. And I even vaguely remember this happening. So it's not just like my dad telling me the story. I one day said I wanted to hear the Cookie Monster song. And my dad's like, "What? What are you talking about?" I said, "Yeah, the song where the guy talks like Cookie Monster." And my dad's going, "What song is this?" And I finally said, "Oh, the guy says looking good." And that was enough for my dad to remember what it was, because those are the only words in the song entirely. It's a song called "The Muffin Talks Back" by the jazz fusion percussionist Billy Cobham.
Okay.
But he says it in this kind of like, this like deeper voice that sounds kind of like the Cookie Monster. He's going, "Looking good." And there's all these like weird kind of electronic synthesizers going off in it. And for whatever reason, like, yeah, I'd noticed that voice, but there was something else in that song that really grabbed my attention. And I just had to hear that again.
So, how about picking up an instrument? Was it that like made you want to perform music, or was there another sort of step in the way?
So like I know, I mean, a lot of kids, they'll have the thought of like, oh, I'll be a rock star, I'll play the guitar and get on stage. So I know I definitely had those thoughts as a kid. My mom tried teaching me piano at some point, and we didn't really get very far with it. But I first really started playing an instrument when I was 8 years old. The school offered instrument lessons, public school, and I started playing the cello. At that stage, only string instruments were available: violin, viola, cello, and upright bass. And of those, I went, yeah, I want to play the cello. One of the other schools had a night when we could come in and I think it was like during the summer and try out the different instruments. And I'd already decided I wanted to play the cello somehow, but we checked out a couple and I just took to that for whatever reason.
Right on. How about the first time you've jammed with other musicians? Because it's different, just pounding on some buckets or something like that, tapping along or singing in the car, to actually trying to meet up with 2, 3, 4 other people and come together with something. So, what was that like for you when you first started jamming?
Yeah, yeah, and it's different too from like playing at school where there's a teacher saying, "Here's your music, play this part." So I think so. Yeah, I'm trying to think like the first time jamming. Um, that that might have so if we're not talking like just making up music, just like trying to play covers and stuff, that would probably have been eighth grade jazz band. But like before, after practice, we just had some time to, noodle around, and that's where I met Matt.
Okay.
So,
Matt
who
Gillum?
yes, Matt
Oh,
Gillum.
okay. So my bandmate Matt
Yes.
Gillum in one of my bands.
Yeah.
Right on.
And so there were a few songs that we'd have some extra time there, so we'd play some stuff together. The kid who played drums would he would join in on some of them. So like I think we played parts of Enter Sandman, parts of Damn It by Blink-182.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
So how has that changed over the years? You're playing with musicians now, right? So what's it like now compared to after school jazz band days? Do you find yourself maybe taking more of a lead, or is it more of a structured process, maybe a less serious process? Anything radically different?
Yeah, because like back then it was we were still kind of just goofing around, but it was fun. It was like, oh well, maybe we could make a band or something. I don't know. I should know by then I was playing bass.
Okay.
So I wasn't playing cello in the jazz band.
Right.
Which I think is a cool thing to do, but there was no place for that at school.
Right.
But yeah, these days it's much more structured. I don't generally step into a leadership role, but so a couple of different groups I've been in. Usually the groups have been fairly small, so it's just kind of we work by consensus in those cases. When we're doing originals and there's a song that I'm the primary or sole songwriter on, then I kind of take the lead on that song. But I don't really like pull a James Hetfield. I'm like, I didn't put that note there, or at least try not to.
Right. So it sounds like you're still playing the bass, possibly, and you said you're not taking as much of a leadership role. Is that a change? Did you take a leadership role in the past when you were in the jazz room?
No, not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your most extravagant or lofty musical goal?
That's an interesting question. In terms of things that I'd like to accomplish in music, so like this is kind of a weird one. I had some dream way back when I was in college that like it wasn't even any music that I made. It was just that like I was somewhere and there was this music that was so scary, like it was making people scream. I want to write that music. Not that I like, oh cool, I'm gonna make people scream, but just the fact that it had like that much impact, like it could get that intense of an emotional reaction from people. So it doesn't even necessarily have to like make people scream, But you know, just to be able to write something that's like so impactful on other people, you know, that that's something I'd really like to achieve at some point.
Right on. I think I've heard a story once about a composer who wrote something that was so impactful and so weird, um, that the audience rioted upon first hearing it.
Oh yeah,
And then in the subsequent listens, the people really, really loved it because they had a framework for listening to it. But literally blew their minds.
yeah.
Do you have any short-term or immediate musical goals that you're like turning the corner on right now?
Um, so there's a couple of projects in the works. The band I'm in, Ikasagon, we're recording an album, and we're getting pretty close to the end of the process, I'd say. So there's some things that I need to add to it. I also play some keyboard, and so the bass tracks are done. I need to add in some keyboard parts to a couple of songs.
Nice.
And you know, so I want to make sure that I get my parts all finished up, and then we can move into mixing and mastering, and we'll be able to put out an album. So that's one of the things.
Awesome.
I'm also working on a video game soundtrack, and so that process is going to take a while longer, but so it's kind of an ongoing thing right now as I keep working on one song after another. But
Okay.
you know, seeing that through to completion.
Um, so it sounds like these are lengthy projects. Are you doing the production work and figuring out like the song structure and stuff during this recording process, or are you like putting things down and deciding that you want different things, or what's that kind of like?
Yeah, so for our band's album, you know, the songs were basically all finished. You know, by the time we got into the studio, we had already worked out everything we're doing with the songs. And then, of course, as we started recording them, then we kind of had a few places where we went, you know, what if we try this? And what if we do that? And a couple of things changed a bit because, I mean, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Working on the music for the game has been a bit different because it's a different sort of collaborative process. Like in the band, all three of us are working on the music together. So even though on that album it's mostly the guitarist's music, we all still have a lot of input on it. And we'll, you know, and so as we were working on the songs, we would discuss, you know, different things we might try with them. And as far as like our own parts in the studio, each of us is having the primary say as far as like how we want it to sound in the mix and things like that. On the game, I'm the only musician. I'm the only composer. So,
Right.
you know, I'm not the lead designer, so I don't have the final say on this is how the song's going to go. But I'm in charge of that creative process.
Okay.
So, that it's a different way of approaching it, and I wouldn't say I like either one better. I like having that variety, though.
All right. Do you have like decision paralysis when it's like, you know, you have the ability to create anything and put as many layers and tracks and things into this video game soundtrack?
Luckily with this, like, there's a lot of stuff for me to go on that's giving me input. So like if it was just a complete blank slate where it was like, hey, we're gonna make a game but we're not sure about it yet, so can you just start making some music and we'll see what fits, then it would be kind of like I guess so. But you know, I can't go into a whole lot of detail on the game just because it's still in development.
Okay.
But it's a rhythm platformer, and a rhythm game primarily. And there's different areas of the game with different sorts of theming to them, let's say. So that's some of the input that I use to kind of inspire the music. And there's kind of a behind the scenes. We have certain descriptors we've used about the areas, a lot of adjectives and maybe some verbs, and then that's input for my creative process. So then based on that, I kind of go, okay, what does that get me thinking of? And we also had a big discussion too, where we also just compared other music and said, does this kind of sound like what we're looking for? Does that kind of sound like it?
So it sounds like you actually have a lot of direction in this that allows you to create something hopefully cool that we'll see in the future.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I think it sounds good, so.
Cool. Has there ever been a moment in your musicianship where you felt you reached a personal milestone?
I think there have been a few. And I would say one of the tricks also to that is to, in addition to having big dreams, have a few small ones. Because then you get that experience of like, oh, I did something that I've dreamed of doing.
Yeah.
Well, okay, this one is not fully accomplished, but it's in the works, and just the fact that I've actually started on it meant something to me. The prog metal band Dolly's Dilemma, they only put out one album, but there's a song on it called "Miracles in Yesteryear," and it has this bass solo on it that is really great. It's technically impressive. It has a nice melodic flow to it. And the first time I heard it, it blew me away. And I listened to it, multiple times, and I was just like, how is he even doing this? Like, I can't even imagine that. And then a couple of years ago, I was listening to it again, and I went, I know, I can follow what's going on there. Can I play that? I think I might actually be able to learn that. So I sat down, and I slowed the track down and started working on it, and I went, oh, I'm actually getting this. I used to think this was impossible for me, but I'm starting to get this. It's not up to tempo yet, but I see it's possible for me now. So just getting to this point of like, oh, wait, maybe at one point in time it wasn't there, but my playing is getting there. So, that's just this nice moment of like, oh, I'm actually a little better than I thought.
Yeah.
And just other little things like I taught elementary music for 9 years.
Wow.
And and so some of it too is like just your perspective on things. I'd imagine like, wow, it'd be great if I could write a piece of music and then like people perform it. Well, I wrote music when I was teaching for my student ensembles. So I wrote music that people performed in a concert and I conducted it. And I mean, okay, it's an elementary school. Conducting kids in elementary school, you just kind of wave your arms a little bit and, point at someone once in a while. It's not that complicated, but, conducting an elementary ensemble, you're more likely to be kind of like glaring at someone and be like, because they're not supposed to talk on stage, but, but I was able to go like, oh wow, I actually did this thing, and it was just a really nice feeling. It's still a nice feeling to be able to think like, oh wow, some of these things I wanted to do, I've actually done.
You're technically a conductor.
Yeah, and a composer. If you don't mind a little anecdote, that was also an interesting moment while I was teaching. Somehow I got into a conversation with one of my students about the fact that like I'd written some of the music. I think he said like, have you written anything else? And I said, oh yeah, I've written a bunch of other stuff. It's just not been for here. And I think he actually asked if he could hear one of my other songs, so I played one, and he thought it was neat. And then his next question was, "So are you a composer?" And I went, "Oh, well,
Technically.
I don't know. I don't know if I really am. Not really, I guess." And he said, "Well, why not?" And then I was stumped. I was like, "Oh, why am I not a composer?" And I was thinking, I'm like, "So why not? Is it because I haven't had my works performed by a major symphony orchestra?" And I said, "That's a really good question. I guess I am a composer."
Yeah, as much of a composer as anyone else could be.
Yeah.
So when it comes to creating your music and the associated art and vision behind it, are there subjects that you won't touch?
So, I mean, I'm not gonna do anything that's contrary to who I am. So, um, like I'm not gonna be expressing views of hate and bigotry,
Mm-hmm.
in my music, which I would hope would be a given for people, but I know it's not.
Yeah.
Um, you know, um, I don't write a whole lot of lyrics these days, but you know, it, if I do take up any social issues, I wouldn't want to write from the perspective of an oppressed or marginalized group as if I know their struggle.
Right.
It's one thing to speak up in support of a group. It's another thing to try and say like, "Oh, I know what's best for you."
Mm-hmm.
Um, so so that's one thing. Other than that, not really. At one point in time, I was like, well, I'm never going to write a country song. I'm never going to write a rap song. I'm not really into the music that much. But then, like, for one thing, I've since found some rap and country that I'm able to appreciate, even if I'm not like into it. There's a couple of songs, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I actually can enjoy this one. And then also, now that I'm getting into working on video game soundtracks, well, the soundtrack may call for a rap song. It may call for a country song. It may call for something else that is not what I would normally go for writing for my own purposes.
Right.
But I'm going to have to write it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. We gotta have a fundamental understanding of what's coming into this and what makes it enjoyable.
Yeah.
So as a musician, what's your relationship with the term success when it comes to music, and do you feel successful?
Um. So, the easy part is I don't really feel successful yet. Um. As far as success itself, I feel like in society at large, it's usually looked at as financial success,
Mm-hmm.
making more than enough money.
Yeah.
And I don't define it that way. For me, being successful as a musician is simply being able to support myself through creating music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be rich. I don't need to be famous. I just like to support myself.
Right.
You know, and I'm not at that stage. Um, I I'm happy with the music I'm creating. I'd like to be doing more, and I'd like to generate more income out of it. So
Right.
that way, you know, I mean, it's kind of a, uh, you know, chicken and egg situation.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm making more money off the music I'm doing, that gives me more time to make more music, which allows me to make more money off of music. So, getting to that stage is tricky.
Right.
But I'm open to multiple avenues. I'm happy to be a studio musician and someone says, "Hey, I need you to play bass on this song." Okay, give me the lead sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm happy working on solo projects. I'm happy playing in our band Icosagon. I'm happy working on the video game soundtracks. If at some point, it leads to doing some kind of film work, I'd be happy doing that. I'm willing to sell my soul and do, music for advertising,
Right.
because you got to pay the bills.
Absolutely.
And there's just a lot of work out there that at this point I just can't deal with. So, you know, if I'm able to, work from home, set my hours, have that flexibility, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you there. I do some very strenuous physical labor weekly, and it impacts my ability to play music as well. It would be great to be able to come in whenever I wanted and engage with it on that sort of level. So, what would you say is the most difficult part for you about making music or being a musician?
Um, hmm. At one point in time, I might have said that it's kind of people not taking me seriously, and kind of not taking my intention of really making this a career. Even though I say like, look, I don't know if it's going to work out, but I have to try.
Mm-hmm.
Worst that happens is I try and I fail,
Right.
and then I just find something else to do. But I've also kind of gotten to a point now of just like, you know what, I don't care what you think. You don't like it? Oh well, too bad. The only person I'm going to hurt in the process is me. So,
Right.
um, I think the most difficult thing for me really is just like the like the time and money aspect that I want more time in my life to work on music, but it's difficult to find that time because I have to work and there's other stuff I have to do, um, to get the money I need to live on.
Right. I feel you there. So, speaking about money, you are probably old enough to remember Napster and Kazaa and
Hmm.
LimeWire and the great devaluing of music from an album that you had to buy to absolutely free. Um, Still, I mean, and even in this episode of this podcast, we talked about Spotify quite a bit in their current troubles, and Spotify does not pay artists very well. You might get cut a check of just a few dollars for thousands of plays. Um, where do you stand on songs themselves having monetary value?
Um, so in terms of like real monetary value today, there's certainly kind of a question mark, like how much money is a song worth right now?
Hmm.
And it doesn't seem to be a whole lot. I think it depends on the platform. So like yeah, with Spotify, a play of a song isn't worth a whole lot, and you can hope that, well, okay, every play counts for something, but it's fractions of a penny.
Hmm.
As opposed to like, the iTunes model, which spread to other sites where, oh, you get a song for 99 cents. So, okay, and if the person only plays it once, well, great, you just got 99 cents out of them,
Hmm.
minus what iTunes takes, which is probably like more than half.
Right.
But in terms of just intrinsic value, and value is like an abstract, like definitely songs have worth, and I think that needs to be recognized on some level. I don't know how to fix this, but I think the system definitely needs to change so that artists can be compensated more fairly for the work we do.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that being a musician is a viable job in 2022?
I do. The COVID situation has definitely made it much more difficult.
Hmm.
Um, I wasn't really playing out beforehand. It had been a while, so it didn't change that for me a whole lot. But I know other people who it has changed it for them, and it's made things difficult.
Mhm.
Whether just gigs dried up entirely, and they've had to find other work, or they've had to become more creative with how they approach things, and so they find other avenues with music. But I do think it's viable. And I mean, not to sound like a tech bro, but I do think a lot of what's out there now with the internet and just the different platforms and stuff does allow for a lot more avenues than there used to be. There's less gatekeeping than there once was. So on the one hand, there are a lot more people out there now who are all trying to, find a place uh, and get somewhere musically, but it also means that it is easier to at least give it a try. Um, and so, I mean, my outlook on it is overall optimistic.
Awesome. So, what do you do to pay the bills and make the music happen?
Currently, and by currently, that's been the past. Is it 6 years now? It's going on 6 years, I think. I've been working at a group home for adults with developmental disabilities.
Okay.
I do that part time, and I've been able to kind of restructure my life to get by on less and, kind of work out bartering arrangements with friends. So, uh, actually, one of my bandmates, um, I help him out with babysitting sometimes, and,
Hmm.
uh, you know, I get, free rent. So,
Okay.
you know, and I mean, it's a small place,
Yeah, yeah.
but you know, living in their house, but it it works, and I have time to work on the music that hopefully that will then turn into a bigger thing.
Right on.
And it also helps out with, like, I have some physical health issues, and so it means I have lower stress, so then my health is better,
Yes,
and
yes.
you know in that way I also have more time to work on the music, because when you feel like crap, there's not much you can do.
Yes, yes. I agree. Um, how about gear? What's your favorite piece of equipment that you've ever owned or used?
Mm. I'm a little torn on that one. I have an Electro Harmonics octave pedal that the same friend, the drummer, got me for Christmas one year, and it does the upper octave and the lower octave, so I can dial those in to whatever degree I want, and when I combine that with distortion, it's just especially with the low octave, it's this nice just wall of sound, and like you'll hear, in some of the, like, the stoner metal or space metal bands, the bass using that kind of sound, and I love that. Um, the other one that the other thing I have that I really love is, I have a modular synthesizer, or I guess you'd say semi-modular, because it's all in one unit, but I've got to plug in the patch cables and
Yeah.
turn the knobs to get what I want. There's no memory in the thing. Um, it's a mono synth. You can only play one tone at a time. And that thing is so much fun, and I still don't understand all of it. And um, that's fine. I'm gradually learning other pieces of it. It took me like 2 years to understand how the ring modulator works.
Ah,
So, um, but yeah, that was another one of those dreams. Like, once I found out what synthesizers were when I was a kid, I was like, I want one of those.
yeah, they're so fun to play with. So are you a gear collector?
Yeah.
Okay, so how much gear would you say is too much?
Um, it's too much when you run out of space, and when you can't pay your bills because of it.
Uh, do you get what they call gear acquisition syndrome, where you constantly want to acquire more and
Hmm.
more gear?
Yeah. It's held in check by not having a lot of space and usually my budget being pretty small.
Right.
So there's just a lot of like, staring longingly at advertisements or displays in the music store back when going to music stores was a typical thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But every now and then I've had the time where I'm just like, "Ah, the hell with it, I'm just getting this thing," you know. But yeah, there's always something else I want. Whether it's something else to add to the setup, another instrument, a piece of support hardware, whatever it is. There's always something else. And then plus also now with doing a lot of work on the computer, now there's virtual instruments. And so I'll scroll through a page of plugins and I'm like, oh, that one looks good. That one looks good. That one looks okay. Well, you know what? I'll just start adding these to the cart so I don't forget about them. And then I look at the cart and it's like $500, and I'm like, well, I don't have that in the budget. So,
Yeah, yeah. I understand that. How about hobbies or passion projects outside of music? Do you do anything that shares or fights for time with the music stuff?
yeah, so I mean, it's music related. I'm into vinyl. I have a pretty substantial record collection, and that also kind of sometimes gets into the gear acquisition realm because I'll go in the record store and I'll be like, oh, this looks good. This looks good. And then I'll be like, so wait, how much would this be to get all these? Oh, I can't get that many today. Um, and I've decided my collection has a hard limit of 500 albums.
Hmm.
If I want more at that point, then some of them have to go. I haven't even hit that number yet, so I'm still good for a while.
Nice.
Um, uh, Not surprisingly, since I'm working on a video game soundtrack, I'm into games, and so that is sometimes a competing area. Which, while relevant, because well, I should be up on what the current games are and see how music's being utilized in games, because there's a whole technical end to all of that, and understanding ways in which the music can be interactive or can respond to things in the game. There's definitely the days where it's like, all right, how much time am I going to be on the soundtrack? How much time am I on the game? How much energy do I have? Where am I making the split today?
Hmm.
Um, and but not just video games, also tabletop RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons. Haven't had the opportunity to play in a long while, but that's one, and I also like architecture. I don't do anything with it, but I'll I'll watch a video about it. I'll read something about it. I'll look at designs. Um,
Awesome.
I've recreated a couple of buildings in Minecraft when I just really wanted to understand a building more.
Okay.
And then suddenly it was like 4 hours later, and I'm like, why did I spend so much time on this? But it looked cool,
Yeah, yeah.
and I had fun.
So could you tell us about your most recent project and where we could find that stuff or you on the internet?
Yeah, so I have currently there's I just have one solo EP up on Bandcamp, and it's lucasdicus.bandcamp.com. As well as some of that music also reappears on my YouTube channel, and there's a few other songs that aren't part of it on there. My YouTube channel is called The Bass is Loaded.
Okay.
I had a little Let's Play stint for a little while that like 10 people watched.
Nice.
And Icosagon doesn't really have any kind of social media presence yet. Um, the As far as the game I'm working on, the company is called Morphodox, and we're also still going through a revamp of most of our stuff. So it's kind of one of those like stay tuned for more information situations.
Right.
But if people are interested, I would definitely encourage them to keep an eye out. because we do have Twitter, and we do have a website. So
Awesome.
yeah.
We'll try to put any relevant information that we can in the show notes and the YouTube description below. And we'll follow up when your project's release in the future, hopefully.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming in today and talking about stuff in music. And I hope all the stuff continues going well for you.
Thanks a lot. I had a good time.
Yeah, man. Hey, if you're watching this video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps us very much. Leave a comment about what your favorite thing was.
You can even comment any nonsense you want. It doesn't even have to have anything to do with anything we talked about.
Yeah, leave your favorite
Just
emoji.
Tell us anything you want to tell us.
Yeah. If you're listening to the audio podcast, please consider leaving a review on the platform that you're listening to it on. Also helps us out a lot. We should be available on all podcast platforms, except for when certain ones decide not to publish our episodes randomly. This is brought to you by Medusa Head Media. This is our overarching space for audio, video, and print projects. And if you'd like to collaborate, go ahead and give us an email at medusaheadmedia@gmail.com. We are recording at Orion Studios in Baltimore, Maryland. I'd like to extend thanks to Lucas for being here, as well as Kyle.
Yep.
And
Always a pleasure.
Of course, you, our audience, for listening.
Not going to thank yourself?
No, I'm not going to thank myself.
Well, thank you, Ed.